Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today's lecture video is a continuation of the previous one. From the title, you have already figured out that this video is on Wasteland Part 1. I have already uploaded a lecture on the introduction of the Wasteland. So if you have not checked that out, I recommend you go to that video first, then continue with this one. So without further ado, let us begin. Well, the part 1 of the Wasteland, the burial of the dead, does not begin immediately. There you see there is one epigraph, and this epigraph is in a different language. And in this epigraph, one final character needs to be understood, whom Eliot mentioned in this epigraph. The first encounter you see is with non-English lines. It is like a warning if you are not ready to learn about new culture, mythology of language, just stay away from this text. This is funny, isn't it? I'm not reading out loud these lines because I know that I will be butchering these lines if I read out loud, because I also do not know this language. But let me talk about the character Eliot introduces here. The Sibyl of Cumae. The Sibyl of Cumae is a prophetess. She was in service to Apollo. Apollo wished to take her as his lover and offered her anything in return. She asked to live for as many years as there were grains in a handful of dust. Remember this handful of dust, this will come into play later. So Apollo granted her wish, but still Sibyl refused to become his lover. And in time, Sibyl came to regret her boon as she aged without dying, growing smaller and frailer each year. She became a subject of curiosity for everyone, a specimen where people can just look at her. So this epigraph is from the Satyricon. It is a Latin fiction by Gaius Petronius. This was written in the late 1st century AD, depicting the misadventures of a former gladiator in the Roman Empire. The quoted scene takes place at a feast in the villa of the wealthy Trimalchio, who portrays Sibyl as a pitiable tourist attraction, small, ancient, confined, and yearning for death. Let's talk about the translation of these lines. The translation is, I saw with my own eyes the Sibyl at Cumae, hanging in a cage, and when the boy said to her, Sibyl, what do you want? She answered, I want to die. Here we have to remember one of Eliot's other poems, that is the Hollow Man. There, the hollow men, they are desperate to die. And then the next line we see it is mentioned for Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound reduced the poem into half. He edited. He, according to Eliot, is a better craftsman. He dedicated the poem to Ezra Pound. And this expression, this later expression, il miglior fabbro, this is taken from the Divine Comedy of Dante, Canto 26 of Purgatorio. In that, Dante refers to Arnold Daniel, but Eliot passes this particular compliment to Pound. So we see from the very beginning, Eliot gives the impression that we are not going to encounter one text. Rather, all the kinds of texts in any language that Eliot knows, we are going to encounter everything. So saying that, let us begin part 1 Burial of the Dead. The Burial of the Dead. We see the title is very straightforward. When a person died, he is buried. But the question here to ask is burial always a sign of death? Let's look at the lines of the poem. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. So, in the first line, we see there is one allusion to the Canterbury Tales of Chaucer. What happens there? In the Canterbury Tales opening line, Chaucer describes April as brimming with vital energy. It is a time of budding, the time of new life. April is traditionally considered as a time of happy rejuvenation. The very first thing Eliot does is to take the April month and takes away the happiness and calls it cruel. He calls it the cruelest month. Why does he call it cruel? It is as if a seed is buried in the earth, protected by earth, and it has forgotten that it has a life in it. Then during April, spring renews life in those seeds. From the point of view of the seed, which is happily sleeping, it is disturbed. Now it has to bloom and fall into the cycle of birth and death. So obviously it is a cruel month. It is making the seed go through all these pains. So right, so calling April cruel kind of is justified here. So here we remember the Buddhist idea of nirvana. The idea of nirvana is not to get into the trap of rebirth. Life, despite being beautiful, is also full of suffering. April is cruel because it stirs up the seed and makes it fall into the trap of being born again. We see that he is not ending the line where the sentence ends. He is using the technique of enjambment where the line follows into the next line. And in next line, what do we have? We have mixing of memory and desire. So when a seed is buried, it has genetic memory of a life which has gone before it, and it has desire to erupt. So at the time of birth, it is all about memory and desire. It is the same if we think of a fetus in its mother's womb. At the moment of birth, memory is mixed with desire, memory of not just one individual but of an entire generation, a desire to create new memories. So, this is the very trap of the cycle of life and death. Now, let's move on to the next portion. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Winter seemed warmer because snow covered up those memories of life, and these are all suppressed. Winter only provides basic sustenance. It does not provide lavish gifts of fruitfulness. It is a time when trees wait patiently. While waiting, they almost begin to forget that there is something called life. So it's kind of easy. Everyone is just going by their day to day life and not thinking of anything much. Everything is easy during the winter. So, why do you think Eliot is talking about all this? So, he is writing in 1920s, and that could be the reason that he is glorifying forgetfulness so much. The memory he has was so dreadful. You remember 1914 to 1919, the First World War, again 1920, the beginning point of new desire, new political clashes, new selfishness brewing all humans, right? So winter was nice because the forgetfulness was there, and the spring is very cruel because after winter all the memories have come back, and the memories are the memories of suffering as well. And also the desire is there, desire to do something new. So it's a kind of external pressure which was not there during the winter time. Okay, let's move on. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starnberg kiss with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Suddenly, in the middle of all these descriptions, someone is talking to us. This person talks about you and me in some random cities and random places. Now, the question we may ask here, who is this person? Why do we always think that there is this single speaker only? So, let's answer that. This was the time when Bakhtin's dialogics, polyvocality theory was coming up. And what is that? Let's talk about who is Mikhail Bakhtin. He was a significant theorist of the discourse in 20th century and introduced the concept of polyphony in literature. His idea of polyvocality emphasizes the multiplicity of voices and perspectives in a text, each with its own validity, contributing to the richness and complexity of meaning. So, that particular theory can make us question who told us that this particular thing is talked about by one person only. So, this particular poem is an attempt at polyvocality. Sometimes the poet does not give an idea of the real identity of the speaker. So it is like, right now we have Instagram reels, YouTube shorts. It's like just looking at the Instagram reels or YouTube shorts of people. We don't know where we are just seeing the captured moments, like the particular moments that person has captured. Like some glimpse and pieces. We do not have the whole picture. Right now on Instagram reel you see some small vacations, or maybe some children laughing or doing something, or maybe some pets doing some random antics, all these things. We do not know who are they, we do not have any backstory of them, but we just see those. So this particular text is kind of an attempt like that. It makes more sense to us because we are more acquainted with this glimpse and pieces now. So we have chunks of conversations, and in between something sparkling from the poet, right? So many people are talking here and there, and the poet also passes on a few comments here and there. So in those connecting lines between random events, we will try to figure out the message of the poet. Sounds quite easy, is it? Alright, first we have this description where one person is talking to us, and this person is talking about you and me. Let's talk about this particular speaker. Let's talk about the words. Starnberger See. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So, Starnberg is a German town in Bavaria, Germany, some 30 kilometers southwest of Munich. and Lake Starnberg or Starnberg Sea and its surroundings lie in Bavarian districts located in southern Bavaria, like 25 kilometers southwest of Munich. So Lake Starnberg is famous for King Ludwig II of Bavaria because he was found dead in the lake in 1886. Now let's talk about this particular word Hofgarten. Hofgarten in German is court garden. It's a garden built in 1613 to 1617 by Maximilian I, Elector of Bavaria, in the center of Munich, Germany. So now we have this description of these places, and then we have the lines. These lines are in German. So the translation of this line, I am not Russian, I come from Lithuania, a real German. So here someone is trying to convince another person about that person's identity. So these two people went out to have fun. They went to have some coffee. We have mentioned here. So they went to have some coffee. So nothing substantial. So we are looking at two people talking about various insignificant things which they feel are very important. So let's get on and see what they are doing, what they are talking about. And when we were children staying at Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled. And I was frightened. He said, Marie, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. So these two people, they go on to some more conversation, and now something begins to stir in the mind. There has to be some specific reference. This Archduke, which Archduke is it talking about? This is a woman who is talking because we have this name Marie. So this is a woman who is talking, and she is talking about her childhood when she used to live at an Archduke's palace. The Archduke, this is the son of Emperor of Austria. There she had a cousin and they used to go on sled. We have the name of the speaker here as mentioned, Marie. Marie is talking about her childhood. All those sweet nostalgic memories. This woman, while talking about her joyful childhood, now is talking about her present. So if Tiresias looked at Marie, he would see the time of her young age. Then Tiresias sees what Marie is doing now. She is spending her time in a lonely way now. She is reading much into the night and goes south in the winter. She has got old now. She does not enjoy the cold mountain anymore. She goes to warmer places in winter. This can be any person, but this specifically is about one particular Marie. Let's talk about who is that particular Marie. Apparently, Countess Maria Largisch of Bavaria. She had a cousin named Rudolph, and Rudolph had a wife as well as a mistress. The mistress's name was also Mary. It was believed that Rudolph and his mistress went into this suicide pact, and Marie Largisch was somehow connected to all this. That incident is called the Meerling incident. After the death of Rudolph, things started to get worse so far as the political climate was concerned. So Rudolph's death had left Franz Joseph without a direct male heir. His younger brother, Archduke Karl Ludwig, was next in line. He was next in line to Austro-Hungarian throne. His death in 1896 from typhoid made his eldest son, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the new heir presumptive. So on 28th June 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife were assassinated in Sarajevo by the 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, a member of Young Bosnia. Franz Fernandez's assassination led to the July crisis and precipitated Austria-Hungary's declaration of war against Serbia, which in turn triggered a series of events that eventually led, like 4 weeks after his death, to Austria-Hungary's allies and Serbia's allies declaring war on each other, starting the First World War. So you see the connection, it's a very long connection he is trying to make here. So you see Eliot's talking about this random character who is not so random. So the question can be asked, was Marie responsible for the First World War? The answer is no. But was not there something she could have done to avoid the suicide? Which might not stop, but another question is, would the suicide stop or at least delayed the crisis? Does Tiresias know all these things? We do not know that. So here you see the powerlessness of Tiresias. He is just a gazer. In the previous lecture, I have mentioned that Tiresias does not have the power to change anything. He is just a gazer. He is simply making us see what actually happened. So this is what humans have become. A combination of nostalgic childhood memories and a distant dream of what we want now. So in doing that, we are focused on how we behave now. So then the voice changes. Let's read on. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. So suddenly the voice changes. Just when we are going to get a grip of the story, that is going to be the story of Muddy, suddenly a voice calling everything rubbish. So what is stony rubbish? Murray's memories, are they? These random characters, who are they? The life experiences, like what are they? So the speaker here is talking about a situation where everything is stony rubbish, and he is mentioning the Son of Man. This expression, Son of Man, is found in Ezekiel, a book in the Old Testament. The speaker is referring to all of us. We are the sons and daughters of men. Let's talk about the heap of broken images. So, the images are not connected to each other, and life is about connecting. I always think of the tabs or the phone. When we scroll, we only see the heaps of broken images, and they are not connected to each other. So here also we have a heap of broken images, a wasteland in the sun with no songs, water or shade. The sound of cricket is associated with rain, So we see that water from the very beginning is considered to be a vital source of life. Not just in Eliot, in biology also. We all know that water is essential. We should just read on a bit to understand a bit more. So only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Remember the handful dust from the story of Sybil? Alright, the expression red rock is there. You feel more dry when you listen to this expression red rock. You feel more dry as the rock is red, as it is extremely dry. So the whole idea of heap of broken images is taken from Ecclesiasticus. In Ecclesiasticus, the expression is like they are afraid of what is high and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails. Because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. So, this is about the journey of man to his eternal home, that is, after death. These all captured by Eliot here. He is also providing heaps of broken images instead of giving us straightforward description. Rather, short little clauses and a certain kind of emotions. That emotion is one of despair and of dryness, that is the lack of vitality. So, this is Eliot's idea of objective correlative, evoking a particular emotion by means of symbols indicative of it. He is, in this whole poem, gives us a set of objects, and it is on us about how we interpret them. Then he asks us to go under the shadow, and the shadow of this red rock. So if red rock is a symbol of dryness, then what special things can be found in its shadow? That can be a good question to be asked. We will be able to see some dust under the shadow of the red rock, and in the dust we will know the story of Sybil. That story will make us understand just having a long life is not enough unless you have what is called vitality. So the word dust has so much religious associations. There is this line from Genesis, "For dust you are, and to dust you will return." In both Christianity and Hinduism, dust is very important. Dust has a lot of religious associations. So a handful dust means it contains someone's life, and if it is dropped, it means the passage of time, which creates fear in us. So there is not enough time. The fear is the fact that there is not enough time. The fear that everything is ending and everything will end soon. This we can see in the later parts. The handful of dust represents both death and passage of time. After this, we have some lines in another language. So these 4 lines are taken from Tristan and Isolde. This is an opera by Richard Wagner about the ill-fated affair between Knight Tristan and the Lady Isolde. The quoted scene occurs near the beginning of the opera, with Tristan escorting the captured Isolde by ship to Cornwall. The translation goes like this: Fresh blows the wind, for home, my Irish child, where do you tarry? So Eliot has been taking out these lines from different places and placing them like jigsaw puzzle. So now the question is what these lines exude if we consider the objective correlative. Even if someone does not know the original story, by reading the lines, we see a sense of nostalgia, like wind from home, someone is carried away from home. This idea of being away from where we belong gives the idea of displacement. So, this is what modern life is about. We don't fit in. We don't feel comfortable around people. We don't feel comfortable around situations. Let's continue with the poem. You gave me hyacinth first a year ago. They called me the hyacinth girl. Yet when we came back late from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I know nothing. Looking into the heart of light, the silence. So we see that there is suddenly another speaker who comes in. The speaker is also a woman. So it is said that the speaker is Emily Hale. She was an American speech and drama teacher. She was the long-time muse and confidant of the poet. Exactly 1131 letters from Eliot to Hale were deposited in Princeton University Library in 1956 and were described as one of the best sealed archives. Biographer Lyndall Gordon, author of the book The Hyacinth Girl, T.S. Eliot and his muse, believed that Emily Hale was the inspiration behind this character. So here we see that this woman is talking to her lover who gave her flowers and after that everyone called her the Hyacinth Girl. Suddenly we are disturbed. What has happened at Hyacinth Garden? Has someone assaulted her? Was there something violent happening to her? The word yet is noticeable. When she starts talking, it is a happy thing. Then comes the word yet, which means something contrary must have happened. Some disillusionment must have happened. Has the lover done something against her consent? So again we see this line. This is quoted from Tristan and Isolde, and it means empty and desolate in the sea. Something must have gone wrong. There can be a connection with Ophelia in Hamlet. Hamlet rejected Ophelia, who ends up in a state of madness that ultimately leads to her drowning. So, two things happened. Ophelia got isolated from Hamlet. Things for her became worse when incidentally Hamlet killed her father Polonius. So during this time, she was continuously talking about flowers moving in a lonely way. Eventually, she drowns herself. A disillusionment which Ophelia felt is a disillusionment any random woman can feel. Let's read on. Madame Sosostris, famous clairvoyant, had a bad cold. Nevertheless, is known to be the wisest woman in Europe. With a wicked pack of cards. Here, said she, is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Those are the pearls that were his eyes. Look, here is Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, the lady of situations. So suddenly we have another woman, and this woman is called Madame Sosostris, and she is sitting with a pack of cards. So these are tarot cards. So tarot cards are supposed to be fortune tellers. Originally, tarot cards were connected to different mythologies and rituals. Madame Sosostris was a famous clairvoyant. Eliot derives this character from another character. This is taken from Aldous Huxley's novel Chrome Yellow. In this novel, there is this character, Mr. Scogan. He dresses himself up as the sorceress Madame Sosostris. Disguised as an old woman, he dispenses vague, grim fortunes. He predicts war and tries to arrange a tryst with a local girl. Huxley's Sosostris touches on several topics that are key themes of the wasteland: war, sex, pessimism, and about the future. So, as a cross dressing fortune teller, she also evokes the prophet Tiresias. Remember, for Tiresias, the gender is fluid. So, we see that the pack of card is mentioned, and this pack of card is wicked. Why wicked pack of cards? So, most of the times, fortune tellers give us warning. They scare us. So, they do that so that people ask for some remedy. Eliot in his notes mentions that he is not very acquainted with the figures of these cards, and he changed some of them to suit his purpose. So she makes some prophecy interpretations as a person picks up cards one by one. Let me first read on the entire section, then I will talk about the different cards. Here is the man with three staves, and here the wheel, and here is the one-eyed merchant, and this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I am forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man. Fear death by water. I see crowds of people walking round a ring. Thank you. If you see dear Mrs. Equiton, tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days. So in Eliot's note, the hanged man, let me read from the note. A member of the traditional pack fits my purpose in two ways because he is associated in my mind with the hanged god of Fraser. Remember the golden bow of James Fraser? He dedicated a chapter on this hanged god, and he gives account of religions where people every year mourn the death of a god who is associated with vegetation cultivation. Then there is a revival ritual. This death and recurrence is common to many religions. All these things we have discussed in our previous lecture. In case of hanged man, an effigy is hung from the tree, and it is believed that the person is in opposition to the sun god Apollo. The hanging of the effigy means a kind of surrender to the forces of nature and recognition that death is necessary part of renewal. This hanging will bring cultivation, new fruitfulness. So the hanged man is not always a bad woman. The point is that the hanged man is also the harbinger of revival. Through death, you can reach renewal or rebirth. But this woman is saying that she cannot find the hanged man. Eliot writes, I associate him with the hooded figure in the passage of the disciple to Emmaus in part 5. Have to come back to this when we read part 5. This is a reminder. Let's talk about the Phoenician sailor and the merchant. So they are introduced to us as form of tarot cards figure. Later they will be introduced to us as characters. So sometimes they are speaking to us, sometimes the narrator is speaking about them. So these are like introduction, just like in drama. The first act is an exposition in the pyramid structure. Here we will see an attempt at exposition. What are we going to do? What situation we are going to find ourselves? All of these things are hinted at in this first section. So as we talk about situation, there is the lady of situations. Also the crowds of people. Even earlier it is mentioned that a number of people are walking, and death by water is executed in part 4. Let's talk about Phoenicians. So Phoenicians were seafaring people. The Phoenician sailor is drowned and his eyes are like pearls that is described. So these lines are taken from The Tempest of Shakespeare. Here Ferdinand gets to know about the death of his father from Ariel, and Ariel tells how the body of the dead person looks like. There some lines are given and Eliot picks this line, "These are pearls that were his eyes." So after drowning, the eyes, the pupils become like pearls, lifeless, and at the same time beautiful. Next we have Man with Three Staves, an authentic member of the tarot pack. Eliot writes, "I associate arbitrarily with the Fisher King." The question is, why Fisher King? Because Fisher King was the person who was getting weakened, who was getting sick, and his sickness was causing the land to wither away. So as this ill health of the king reflect that the ill health of the kingdom, this Fisher King needs to be revived, just like the hanged man or the hanged god. So all these cards, when Madame Sosostris interprets them, she does it very casually. But in the context of this poem, these cards have a lot of importance. When she is reading about these cards, she is talking about a blank card which she is forbidden to see. So we see here there is a falling down from grandeur. The famous clairvoyant is forbidden to see her own tarot card. She is not able to prophesy the whole thing. This reminds Ariel's prophecy to Belinda in The Rape of the Lock. He does not know exactly what is going to happen to her. So this is kind of limited power. Then suddenly she is talking about something very mundane. Now she is talking about a random character, Mrs. Equiton. She is another one of her clients. She is supposed to make a horoscope for Mrs. Equiton. She tells this client who is sitting in front of her to tell Mrs. Equiton that she will bring the horoscope herself, because she is worried if she gives it to someone, that person might change it. She can't even see her own card, and she is saying she is a capable fortune teller. That is kind of an irony. Unreal city. Under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over London Bridge. So many. I had not thought death had undone so many. Shies, short and infrequent, were exhaled, and each man fixed his eyes before his feet. Let's talk about unreal city. One statement where the entirety of the land is considered. But we know that city is a physical thing, it is a man made thing. And the question is Eliot the only one who said this? The answer is no. He got this idea from The Seven Old Men written by Charles Baudelaire. Charles Baudelaire created this cult of imagism. The lines of Baudelaire go like, unreal city, city full of dreams, where ghosts in broad daylight cling to passers-by. So Eliot plucked this idea from Baudelaire and placed it here. Winter was comfortable, right? But here, winter dawn is described as brown. People who walk on bridges, they're alive. Then why do you think Eliot is saying that these people are undone? Is he talking about a generation of people who are undone, destroyed by the First World War? This line is taken from Inferno of Dante. Dante was talking about Inferno, where the crowd of people walking listlessly. Eliot is talking about actual city London. Here you see the aimless walk. So, zombied consciousness. Eliot has become the Tiresias here. He saw the past depicted by Dante and saw the future, the 21st century. Here, people are not breathing in happy way. They sigh. That is anxiety. They are looking down, not looking at each other, not communicating. Let's read on. Flowed up the hill at down King William Street, to where St. Mary Woolnoth kept the hours, with a dead sound on the final stroke of 9. There I saw one I knew, and stopped him, crying, Stetson, you were with me in the ships at Melee. That corpse you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year? Or has the sudden frost disturbed its bed? Oh, keep the dogs far hence. That's friend to men. Or with his nails he will dig it up again. You, hypocrite lecturer, mon semblable, mon fair. Mary Woolnoth is a famous church in London. Religion has become a deadened force now. This is indicated back in Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. I have a lecture on Dover Beach uploaded. You can check that out. So who is this I? The one we're saying, there I saw, one I knew. Who is this I? A random speaker. Remember polyvocality, another voice? So Stetson reminds of Satan. Remember Macbeth's last champion and companion? Maybe they both were sent to war on a ship, this speaker and Stetson. The Battle of Melee took place in 260 BC during First Punic War and was the first naval battle between Carthage and Roman Republic. So this is the reference of a long, like a battle which was fought like long back. Then we see the expression corpse planted. Corpse don't sprout, but the idea of grave contains both death and life that can be evoked here. The ritual of burying loved ones and sprinkling seeds. The sprouting of those seeds and blooming of flowers give a sense that the buried person became a flower. This is a quotation from Act 5, Scene 4 of The White Devil. The speaker is Corenia, whose son Marcello is refused a proper burial because he died in a quarrel. Dogs bring out the corpse. So, this particular portion is a reference to that. In the drama, there is wolf mentioned. When a grave is there which is not sanctioned by church, here you find pagan rituals. What is it about? This poem is about death, about burial, about sprouting up after death. Then we have this last line. You hypocrite lecher. That means you hypocrite reader. Mon semblable, mon frère. My fellow, my brother. Why suddenly he shows antagonism? We have chosen to remain silent. We were feeling safe that this poem is about other people. Eliot wants us to consider what we are. We are hypocrites. He is also not keeping himself out of it. This line is taken from Baudelaire's Fleurs du Mal. So you see, this entire first portion, the entire first part is about death, and then about burial and various rituals of burial and the sprouting up after death. I hope you have liked this video. If you have liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share with all your friends. Thank you. Bye bye.